Hey, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, I'm stoked you're joining us today. This video is called Don't Let Her See You Cry, Master Your Emotions, and it's going to be a deep dive into something every man needs to get a handle on, his emotions. Now, before you click away thinking this is some touchy-feely nonsense, hear me out. This isn't about suppressing who you are or pretending you're a robot. It's about understanding your emotions, controlling them, and using them to become a stronger, more grounded version of yourself. Whether it's in your relationships, your career, or just how you carry yourself day to day, mastering your emotions is the key to leveling up. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's unpack this together. By the end of this video, you'll have a toolbox full of strategies to stay calm under pressure, handle tough situations, and show up as the man you want to be. Let's start with a story. A few years ago, I was at a friend's house for a barbecue. It was one of those perfect summer evenings. Good food, cold drinks, laughter filling the air. My buddy, let's call him Jake, was there with his girlfriend, Sarah. Jake's a solid guy, works hard, loves his girl, but that night things went sideways. They got into an argument over something small. Honestly, I can't even remember what it was. Maybe she felt he wasn't paying enough attention to her, or he thought she was being too clingy. Point is, it escalated fast. Jake started raising his voice, his face got red, and before you know it, he's storming off to the backyard, punching a patio chair on his way out. Sarah's standing there, embarrassed, and the rest of us are just trying to pretend we didn't see it. Later, Jake told me he felt like he'd lost control, like his emotions just took the wheel and drove him off a cliff. He said the worst part was how Sarah looked at him afterward, not with anger, but with disappointment. That's when he realized he needed to get a grip on himself. That story sticks with me because it's a perfect example of what happens when you let your emotions run the show. Jake's a good dude, but in that moment he wasn't in control. And here's the hard truth. When you lose control, you lose respect. Not just from others, but from yourself. That's what this video is about. It's about making sure you're the one calling the shots, not your anger, not your sadness, not your frustration. And yeah, the title mentions Don't Let Her See You Cry, but this isn't just about hiding tears from a woman. It's about presenting your best self to the world, especially to the people who matter most. Because let's be real, nobody respects a man who's a slave to his emotions. So why is emotional mastery so important? Well, think about the men you admire. Maybe it's a mentor, a father figure, or even a character from a movie. Chances are, what makes them stand out is their ability to stay calm, focused, and deliberate, no matter what's thrown at them. They're not cold or emotionless, they feel things deeply, but they don't let those feelings hijack their actions. That's the kind of man people look to in a crisis. That's the kind of man women respect, friends trust, and bosses promote. And the good news, that kind of control isn't something you're born with. It's a skill you can learn, and I'm going to walk you through how to do it. Let's start with the basics. What are emotions anyway? At their core, emotions are your body's way of signaling what's going on inside you. They're like the dashboard lights on a car. Anger might be the check engine light telling you something's wrong. Sadness might be the low fuel warning, letting you know you're running on empty. The problem is, most of us aren't taught how to read those signals properly. Instead, we either ignore them until the car breaks down or overreact and crash into the nearest wall. Emotional mastery is about learning to read the dashboard, understand what it's telling you, and decide how to respond instead of just slamming on the gas or the brakes. One of the biggest misconceptions about emotions, especially for men, is that they're a sign of weakness. Society's drilled this into us. Real men don't cry, tough it out, don't be soft. And look, there's some truth to the idea that you can't just break down every time life gets hard. But pretending you don't feel anything? That's not strength, that's denial. Real strength is acknowledging what you feel without letting it define you. It's saying, well, yeah, I'm pissed off right now, but I'm not going to let that ruin my day or my relationship. It's about owning your emotions instead of letting them own you. Now let's talk about why this matters so much in relationships. The title of this video isn't just clickbait, it's pointing to something real. When I say don't let her see you cry, I'm not saying you should never show vulnerability. Vulnerability, when it's intentional and controlled, can actually strengthen a relationship. But there's a difference between choosing to open up and losing your composure, because you can't handle what you're feeling. Women, like anyone, want to feel safe with the person they're with. They want to know you've got things under control, even when the world's falling apart. If you're constantly flying off the handle or breaking down at the smallest setback, it sends a signal that you're not reliable. And that's a problem, because reliability is one of the cornerstones of attraction and respect. Let me give you another example. I once coached a guy named Mark who was struggling in his marriage. He loved his wife, but they were fighting all the time. He'd get frustrated, she'd push back, and before long they were both yelling, saying things they didn't mean. Mark told me he felt like he couldn't help it. When he got mad, it was like a switch flipped and he'd just explode. The thing is, his wife wasn't just upset about the arguments. She was losing faith in him as a partner because he couldn't keep his cool. Mark had to learn that his outbursts weren't just about him. They were affecting the woman he loved and the life they were building together. So, how do you start mastering your emotions? The first step is awareness. You can't control something you don't understand, so you need to get curious about what's going on inside you. Next time you feel a strong emotion, whether it's anger, sadness, or even excitement, pause and ask yourself, what's triggering this? Where do I feel it in my body? What's it trying to tell me? For example, let's say your girlfriend snaps at you for leaving dishes in the sink. Your first instinct might be to snap back because you feel attacked. But if you pause, you might notice that the anger isn't just about the dishes. It's about feeling disrespected or unappreciated. Once you name that, you can respond to the real issue instead of just escalating the fight. This brings us to a key tool, the pause. The pause is like a superpower. It's that split second where you choose not to react on autopilot. Instead of yelling, storming off, or saying something you'll regret, you take a breath and give yourself a moment to think. It sounds simple, but it's game-changing. I've seen guys turn entire conversations around just by taking a beat to collect themselves. The pause gives you the space to ask, is this worth getting upset over? What's the best way to handle this? Why, it's not about suppressing your feelings. It's about choosing how to express them. Let's talk about anger specifically, because it's one of the most common emotions men struggle with. Anger feels powerful in the moment, like you're asserting yourself, taking control. But more often than not, it's a mask for something else, fear, insecurity, or hurt. Think about Jake at the barbecue. He wasn't just mad about what Sarah said. He was scared of looking weak in front of her and their friends. When you feel anger bubbling up, try this. Instead of focusing on what made you mad, ask yourself what you're protecting. Are you afraid of being disrespected? Are you worried about losing something important? Getting to the root of the anger helps you address the real issue instead of just blowing up. One technique I teach guys is called name it to tame it. When you're feeling a strong emotion, say it out loud or in your head. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm scared. Naming the emotion takes away some of its power. It's like shining a light on a monster under the bed. Suddenly it's not so scary anymore. This works because it forces your brain to shift from the emotional part, the amygdala, to the logical part, the prefrontal cortex. That shift gives you a chance to think clearly and decide what to do next. Try it the next time you're about to lose it. Just say, I'm pissed off, and watch how it changes the way you feel. Another tool is physical release. Emotions aren't just in your head, they're in your body too. When you're angry or stressed, your muscles tense up, your heart races, your adrenaline spikes. If you don't release that energy, it builds up and makes it harder to stay in control. That's why exercise is such a game changer. Hitting the gym, going for a run, or even doing some push-ups can burn off that excess energy and clear your head. But if you're in a situation where you can't exactly drop and do burpees, like in the middle of an argument, try something subtle. Clench and release your fists. Take a few deep breaths or excuse yourself for a quick walk. It's not about running away. It's about giving your body a chance to reset. Now, let's talk about sadness, because that's the one a lot of guys avoid. Crying in particular has this stigma, especially for men. The phrase, "don't let her see you cry," comes from this idea that tears make you look weak, especially in front of a woman. And yeah, there's some truth to the idea that breaking down in front of your partner all the time might not inspire confidence. But here's the flip side. Crying isn't the problem. It's when and why you're crying that matters. If you're sobbing because you had a bad day at work and you can't handle the pressure, that's a signal you need to work on your resilience. But if you're shedding a tear because you're sharing something deeply personal with someone you trust, that's not weakness, that's strength. The key is control. Choose when to let those emotions out, and make sure it's intentional, not a reaction you can't stop. One way to handle sadness is to create space for it. A lot of guys bottle up their feelings until they explode, and that's when you get those uncontrollable breakdowns. Instead, give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling in a safe environment. Maybe that's journaling late at night, talking to a close friend, or even just sitting with your thoughts for a few minutes. The goal isn't to wallow, it's to process. When you give your emotions an outlet, they don't build up and ambush you later. It's like draining a pressure valve before it bursts. Let's shift gears and talk about relationships again, because this is where emotional mastery really gets put to the test. When you're with a woman, whether it's a new relationship or a long-term partnership, your ability to stay grounded is huge. Women are intuitive. They pick up on your emotional state even if you think you're hiding it. If you're anxious, angry, or insecure, she's going to sense it, and it's going to affect how she sees you. That's not to say you have to be perfect, but you need to show her you're in control of yourself. That's what makes her feel safe, and safety is the foundation of any good relationship. One mistake guys make is thinking they have to fix every problem right away. Your girlfriend's upset about something, maybe her boss was a jerk, or she's stressed about money, and your instinct is to jump in with solutions. But sometimes she doesn't want you to fix it. She just wants you to listen and be there. This is where emotional mastery comes in. Instead of getting frustrated because you can't solve her problem, stay calm and present. Ask questions, show empathy, and let her know you're in her corner. That kind of steady presence is worth more than any quick fix. Another trap is getting sucked into her emotions. Let's say she's upset and starts raising her voice. Your first instinct might be to match her energy, and suddenly you're both yelling. That's a lose-lose situation. Instead, use the pause we talked about earlier. Stay calm, keep your voice steady, and don't take the bait. This doesn't mean being a doormat. If she's crossing a line, you need to set boundaries. But you can do that without losing your cool. When you stay grounded, you're not just de-escalating the situation. You're showing her you're a man she can rely on. Let's talk about boundaries for a second, because they're a huge part of emotional mastery. Boundaries aren't just about saying no to other people. They're about saying yes to yourself. When you have clear boundaries, you're less likely to get pulled into emotional chaos. For example, let's say your partner's upset and starts venting about something you did. If you don't have boundaries, you might take it personally, get defensive, and spiral into a fight. But if you've got a strong sense of self, you can listen. Assess whether her complaint is valid, and respond calmly. Boundaries help you stay centered, even when someone else is trying to drag you into their storm. One way to set boundaries is to know your triggers. We all have them, those things that set us off faster than anything else. Maybe it's when someone criticizes your work, or when you feel ignored, or when you're compared to someone else. Whatever it is, get clear on what pushes your buttons and why. Once you know your triggers, you can prepare for them. For example, if you know you get defensive when your girlfriend points out something you did wrong, practice how you'll respond next time. Maybe you'll say, "I hear you, let me think about that," instead of snapping back. Preparation is half the battle. Let's take a step back and talk about the bigger picture. Why emotional mastery isn't just about you. When you're in control of your emotions, you're not just improving your own life. You're making things better for everyone around you. Your friends, your family, your partner, they all benefit when you're steady. Think about it. When you're the guy who doesn't lose his head in a crisis, people start looking to you for leadership. You become the rock others lean on. That's not just a nice to have, it's a responsibility, and it starts with doing the work on yourself. One of the best ways to build emotional mastery is through practice. Just like you don't get a six-pack by going to the gym once, you don't become emotionally resilient. You've got to put in the reps, start small. Maybe it's practicing the pause the next time you're annoyed in traffic. Or maybe it's journaling for 5 minutes at the end of the day to process what you're feeling. The key is consistency. Over time, those small habits add up, and you'll notice you're handling situations that used to throw you off with a lot more ease. Another practice is meditation. I know, some of you are rolling your eyes right now, but hear me out. Meditation isn't about sitting cross-legged and chanting. It's about training your mind to stay present. Even 5 minutes a day of focusing on your breath can make a huge difference. It's like giving your brain a workout, teaching it to stay calm and focused even when things get chaotic. There are tons of apps out there to guide you, or you can just sit quietly and breathe. The point is to create a habit of checking in with yourself. Let's talk about failure for a minute because you're going to mess this up sometimes. You're going to lose your temper, say something dumb, or let your emotions get the better of you. That's okay. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. When you slip up, don't beat yourself up. Instead, reflect on what happened. What triggered you? What could you have done differently? Then, make a plan for next time. Every mistake is a chance to get better, as long as you're willing to learn from it. One thing that's helped me is surrounding myself with people who push me to be better. If you're hanging out with guys who are always losing their cool, making excuses, or blaming others, that's going to rub off on you. But if you're around men who are deliberate, thoughtful, and in control, you'll start to pick up those traits too. Find a mentor, join a group, or even just have a friend you can talk to about this stuff. Accountability is huge when you're working on yourself. Let's circle back to the idea of crying, because it's worth revisiting. The title of this video is provocative for a reason. It's meant to grab your attention. But the real message isn't about never crying. It's about choosing when and how you express your emotions. There's a time and a place for vulnerability, and it's powerful when it's done right. Maybe it's sharing a fear with your partner in a quiet moment, or opening up to a friend about something you've been carrying. Those moments build connection and trust. But if you're crying because you're overwhelmed and can't cope, that's a sign you need to work on your emotional resilience. The goal is to be in control of when you let those walls down, not to keep them up forever. One final tool I want to give you is visualization. This is something athletes and high performers use all the time, and it works for emotional mastery too. Picture a situation where you know you might lose control. Maybe it's an argument with your girlfriend or a high-pressure moment at work. Now, imagine yourself handling it like a pro. See yourself staying calm, speaking clearly, and walking away feeling good about how you showed up. Run through that scenario in your head a few times. It's like a mental rehearsal, and it primes your brain to act that way when the real moment comes. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. Mastering your emotions isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming the best version of who you already are. It's about showing up as a man who's strong, reliable, and in control. Not because you're suppressing your feelings, but because you've learned to harness them. That's the kind of man people respect, the kind of man women want to be with, and the kind of man you'll be proud to see in the mirror. So, here's your homework. This week, pick one tool from this video, whether it's the pause, naming your emotions, or setting boundaries, and practice it. Start small, but be consistent. And if you're ready to take this to the next level, drop a comment below and let me know what you're working on. I read every single one and I love hearing from you guys. If this video helped you, hit that like button, share it with a friend who needs to hear this, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're building a community of men who are serious about leveling up, and I want you to be part of it. Until next time, stay strong, stay in control, and I'll see you in the next video.